I always like
I
to say action
yeah.
beats anxiety, right? If you're anxious about something, start doing stuff, right? You're gonna figure it out. But if you sit and you think and you overthink, that's not gonna help you. Like take your very first step. So we're talking about the example of starting a business. It can be so overwhelming. You don't know where to start. You're changing careers. You're not sure. Just post your very first thing on social media, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made a career change, offering motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. Welcome back to another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and I'm so glad that you've joined me. Before I jump into introducing my guest, I want to ask you, are you ready to make a career change, but you just feel stuck? Like you don't know the next steps to take in order to make it happen? Well, I have a brand new free resource called the Career Transition Blueprint that is a 12-question assessment, which will lead you to not only determining where you are on your career change journey, but also help you figure out what the next right step is for you. So if you are interested in getting some clarity around what actions you can take to start moving towards the career of your dreams, please connect with me on Instagram at Shift Your Day Job or go to my website, brittanycates.com, and you can access your free career transition blueprint from there. I look forward to helping you take your first or next step towards shifting your day job. Today's guest is Erin Dimond, who shares her transformative journey from working in a medical software company to establishing a thriving online fitness coaching business. And the thing that I love about Erin's story is that she follows her passion. She recognizes that this mundane corporate cubicle existence is not for her. And instead, she picks up on clues in her life that help her recognize that fitness is something she loves, and she could marry that with creating her own business so she could live on her own terms. Erin talks about overcoming self-doubt, the importance of action over anxiety, navigating external opinions when you're trying to do something that's a little outside of the box, and trusting oneself. She also shares the important role that her husband played as they ventured on this fitness coaching and now business mentorship journey together. If you are considering a career change or entrepreneurial pursuits, I believe Erin offers some great practical advice on both mindset shifts and how to take bold steps towards your goals. So please join me in welcoming Erin Dimond to the podcast. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a crazy week, but today is much better.
Oh, good. Thank you for being a guest on my podcast. I see that you are a fitness coach, entrepreneur, own your own business, and I would love to hear the story behind how you got to where you are today and, what that path looked like, because it's often not linear, right? It's often a windy path. So if you could share with our audience your story, that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these days I'm more of a retired online fitness coach. You had mentioned you've made several pivots, and I've made a couple in my career too, but I'll take you back because it started as an online fitness coach. So it was really In 2013, when I made the career shift, so I graduated college in 2010 and I got a job at a medical software company and I was in a cubicle and just thought, okay, this is my life and this is my path and I'm going to get a promotion and I'm going to climb the corporate ladder and I'm going to be here forever. And 6 months in, I was like, I don't know how the hell anyone does this. This just seems like a miserable existence. I don't care what I'm selling. I don't care what I'm talking about. I just don't care about any of this. I remember looking around at my colleagues and being like, do they care? Are they faking it? Are you supposed to hate what you do? And I battled with that for about 3 years. But in the meantime, I thought if I'm going to hate 40 hours of my week, I'm at least going to have a hobby that I really like. So what am I doing after work? Which is really how I found fitness. So I started going to group fitness classes and eventually started competing in bodybuilding shows. And I remember the turning point very vividly when I realized, wait a minute, maybe I can actually make money doing something that I like. I was attending a class at a really small studio. They did spinning and TRX and kickboxing. It was just a little boutique fitness studio. And the owner comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you should teach here." And I'm like, "I should teach here? What are you talking about?" He's like, "You have great personality. You have the look. Like everyone would you just be really inspiring." And I'm like, "I'm not certified. I have no idea what you're talking about." He's here, get the certification online. It's $100. It doesn't matter really. Just do it. And I'm like, okay. And you'll teach kickboxing. And I'm like, okay. I'd never even taken a kickboxing class, but I'm like, okay. I turned to YouTube and I'm like, what does a kickboxing class look like? And I'm like watching the instructor do the moves. I'm like writing in my notes. And then I'm trying to memorize the whole thing. But I did it. I showed up and I taught the kickboxing class, and a bunch of people thanked me afterwards. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. And I was not doing it for the money at all. I was like I said, it was like I've decided I make money in a way that I am miserable, but I have hobbies. And I'll never forget. It was like 3 weeks into me teaching classes. The owner comes up to me. He's, "Hey, your checks are in the desk, right?" And I was like, "No, you don't have to pay me for this. What are you talking about? This is a job." It just feels weird. Like I would be coming anyway. I'd be doing it anyway. And he was like, "No, here's your money." And from that point on, I was like, wait a minute. I don't have to hate. I can actually really enjoy something that I'm doing and I can make money doing it. So from there, I started taking on some one-on-one in-person training clients and started documenting my own fitness journey on Instagram. And so this was back in 2012 when Instagram was fairly new. The app was very different. Like I don't know if you remember back then or if you had Instagram back then, but everything was like in sequential order. So you saw every post everyone made. And I quickly gained quite a bit of followers at first on accident. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm figuring out how this is happening. And I think I can just like market myself on this app and gain more followers. Met more people coming to me and asking me questions about how can you help me? And so from there, I remember someone asking, "I'd love to work with you, but I'm not local." And I'm like, "I'll try to help you online." I had seen one other woman at the time who was doing online fitness coaching. I had no idea what this is going to look like, but I'm just going to try it anyway. I'm going to send you some workouts and some nutritional advice and things like that. So I hacked together some systems of a business and took a few clients. Looking back, they were terrible systems. Like everything I was doing was like, this is not a business. This is just trying my best. But I did that on my own from 2013 to 2016. That business really grew and took off. By 2016, I was doing about 500 grand a year and I had no expenses, no team members, no overheads. That was profit, which was cool. But my systems were a mess. I had so many clients. I was working 70 hours a week. And so that's when I really became passionate about the business aspect of things. I'm like, okay, I'm making great money. And a lot of people are asking me how I'm doing that. There's got to be people not killing themselves working 70 hours a week and still doing it like this. And so I started asking questions and hiring mentors and figuring out systems for sales, marketing, and client delivery to make my life easier. My passion shifted from helping people reach fitness goals to helping optimize fitness businesses. In 2017, I met my now husband and business partner. When our worlds collided, it was like a perfect storm because he was a serial entrepreneur, skilled in systems, all the things I was really bad at. And he took a look at my business and, what is all this? And I'm like, listen, I don't know. I just learned a way to make money. It's such a mess behind the scenes. He's, let's try and fix it. I wouldn't let him touch my business, but we started a new fitness offer together. And that one really took off. And in a way that made me go, you know what? I might eventually actually be able to have a family and not be a slave to my business. So fast forward to today, we created IFCA, which is Impact Fitness Coaching Academy. which helps online fitness coaches, personal trainers, healthcare professionals who are trying to move into the online space. It helps them start or scale their business. And we've helped about 3,500 coaches to date through our academy. So nowadays, since in the last 4 years or so, I'm very focused more so on the business side, the scaling business side, the teaching, the marketing, the systems, all that stuff.
Where do you feel like that is something that is that just how your brain operates? Or like, how do you get to a point where you're like, let's just try?
Yeah, I think that's really a great question because a lot of people think you have to know the answers and you have to figure. I think I was really fortunate in the way that I was raised. So I'm the oldest of three siblings. My mom just always let me figure stuff out, and she made me figure stuff out for my siblings. I was always treated like, oh, you can figure it out. And I feel like most kids have that realization where they look at their parents and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. All this time I've believed you. You actually have no idea what you're doing. I remember having that pretty young. And so I think I've always been able to just look at authority or people doing things and being like, wow, you probably are just guessing. I think we're all just guessing. I think the sooner you can figure that out and figure it out in different ways too. Sometimes have idols or certain people that we hold in a different regard. They certainly know what they're doing. No, they don't. If they've never done it before, they are just guessing. Like we're all just guessing. So it comes down to that realization, but I also think a certain amount of just confidence in yourself that, hey, even if I fall flat on my face, that's going to be a lesson and I'm going to figure it out. Might as well try. I think so many people don't do that because they're afraid to fail when really like, what is failure even, right? What if I would have bombed the kickboxing class and been embarrassed? So what, right? I probably would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah. And often we don't give ourselves like that example of the kickboxing class. You looked at a few videos online and you came up with something and you executed and it was a success. Like just doing the thing in line with what you're saying. Like nobody knows what they're doing anyway. Like just doing the thing proves to yourself, look what I can do on such minimal knowledge base, right?
Yeah. I always like
I
to say action
yeah.
beats anxiety, right? If you're anxious about something, start doing stuff, right? You're gonna figure it out. But if you sit and you think and you overthink, that's not gonna help you. Like take your very first step. So we're talking about the example of starting a business. It can be so overwhelming. You don't know where to start, you're changing careers, you're not sure. Just post your very first thing on social media, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Say it like you would say it to a friend when they ask you what your offer was or what you would do. Like just get started. And I promise you, in 3 years, you'll look back and you'll cringe and you'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to talk like that online or do that. But it's part of the journey that nobody gets to skip. You just have to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. I like that advice and the example you gave, right? You just started posting on social media and then the people started coming to you saying, oh, I need your help with this. And that helped guide you down figuring out how to tackle it in a more effective way.
Just provide value. A lot of people think I can't show up online until I'm ready to sell something and I know exactly what I'm selling. No, that's the worst time to show up online. You don't want to show up and be like, hey, here, it's ready, pay me money. You want to be showing up for the longest time saying, I can solve this problem. Here's the advice for this. Here's this. You might do that with no monetization strategy in mind, but after a little while, you will have people and you're like, huh, here's the offer. Here's the thing. Here's how I'm going to deliver it. Once you have all that clarity, you're going to have people get on the phone with you and say, I just trust you. I've just been looking at your stuff for the past year. You just feel like the right person to help me with this thing.
I also think it's interesting that as you started your business, you recognize the challenges you were facing, and that has helped you shift into a new avenue of how you're serving people. And so it comes back to the idea of your pain becomes your purpose.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, your pain was, I hate this corporate job. I need to find something, or I would love to do something that I enjoy more.
Mhm.
And you found that. And over time, then your pain shifted, right? And so this allowing yourself to, for the permission to pivot and make different
Yeah.
decisions along the way.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made, I think, about passion versus practicality, right? Sometimes people are like, I'm just losing my passion for helping people lose weight. You're going to feel that way after you have 500 of the same conversation. You're not going to be as excited to do it anymore. the passion versus practicality debate. What does it make sense to just completely jump ship and then create an offer based off of something else that you don't quite have the knowledge about now? No, don't do that. But at the same time, I think if you're lucky enough to have found your passion, look at what you're able to do with something you don't care about all that much, right? If you go to a job and say you're a nurse, and gosh, I enjoy helping people, but I hate the system. I hate all these things about it. I really don't want to do this. You still get to show up, you still save lives, you still have a tremendous impact. And the way I think about it is imagine if I like really cared and enjoyed all of this and I was totally in control of it. Imagine how much more impact that I could actually make in that regard. And so I think so many people, they just don't listen. They make up excuses. They're like, it's not practical. I have all these student loans for this other thing. Or I've spent so much of my life. I'm 35. I can't do this now. I have kids. But I think the reality is, sure, it's risky, but you do figure it out when you have that fire in your belly and you're wanting to make a change. People are so attracted to energy. And when they feel that coming off of you, hey, this is a problem that I'm here to solve and I can solve it. And you have the conviction coming from you. It's not all that hard to attract clients starting a business doing that thing. Or if you're changing careers, maybe you're not starting a business, you're going to be great at it because you actually care about it. It's just like leaving the uncertainty of the known. It's just the devil you don't know. It's still scary.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you think of when people like lose their job and they're like, that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it opens up your possibilities and your energy changes, right? Your energy shifts and you're like, okay, now I have to like figure it out, figure
Yeah.
out what's next for me. And yeah, that correlates with what you're saying. So yeah.
Totally. I've been on the other side of that where we have a team of, I think we're probably like 27 people on our team now. And I've had to make those hard calls and let people go. And in the times that I'm doing it, I'm always thinking, what's best for the business, but also what's best for them. And a lot of times I'm letting someone go that I'm like, you aren't passionate in this role. You don't like it. I can feel it. You're just doing it because it's a job. If we release this, it's like a breakup. If we do this, you're going to look back in 6 months and go, man, I'm so glad that happened. Just in a breakup, somebody has to make the call. I'm so glad that person broke up with me. I wouldn't have made the call, but look
Yeah.
at me now.
It makes you think of when I left my last teaching position, I was actually let go from that school.
Mhm.
I remember how excited and like free I felt from it, but it was almost like I was hoping nobody would find out that I
Yeah.
didn't want to be there. It's the familiar, it's the safety. And once you're able to detach from that, in however it happens for you,
Mhm.
it allows you to really open up your mind to, oh, hey, this isn't so bad, or
Yeah.
this isn't as, I'm more capable than I think I am of finding that next step for myself.
Good is the enemy of great, right? It's like, yeah, I'm making steady paycheck. I show up. I enjoy the kids. I do this. Da, da, da. But luck would be on the other side of that. And that's at every level. That's something my husband and I still ask ourselves all the time because we've built this big business and we do love it. We love the impact that it has. We love the lives that we change. We're entrepreneurs. So I'm always like, what about this other thing? And we don't have space or capacity for it all. And so we're always just, is good the enemy of great here? Could this even be something more?
Yeah. And it comes down to your values and where you are in your life at that time
Absolutely.
and how you decide, is this
Mhm.
just good or could it be better? Could it be great?
Yeah. That's the great point, actually, because I mentioned that I have a 2-year-old and we're trying to have another baby. And so what would have been goals for me when I was 27 looks a lot different now at 36 and in this phase of my life. Uh, uh, a phase of life where maybe you're switching careers from something that was super demanding, super boss babe. You did the thing, and now you want to scale back to more of a part-time gig that you have more control over in your current season of life. I think that's so important for women, especially to evaluate and not evaluate based off anybody else's standards. Right? What do I want my life to look like? And work is a really big part of your life. You can't just put that in this bucket because it's not going to stay in that bucket. It's going to come over into your marriage. It's going to come over into the way that you parent. I just think it's really important to do those little life audits every once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. Can you talk about any moment in your career journey where you may have had some self doubt that you overcame and how you did that, or any tips you might give?
Yeah, I think every single day you recognize the feeling, but you're like, it's just a feeling. And I can choose to just ignore that feeling and just do it anyway. But early on, you don't have that skill yet. So I think when you ask the question, I think the very first one that stood out is I started my way of marketing my business was on social media through Instagram, like I'd mentioned back in 2012, 13, 14, but that's before video was even on any of the platforms. So it was just written captions. So it was very comfortable for me because I just felt comfortable writing behind my phone, my computer, and just write my long caption and post my little selfie. And that was my way of showing myself to the world. And then stories, Instagram stories became a thing. You pop on there and you talk about your day. I was never a YouTuber. I was never a vlogger, any of those things. And I remember just thinking, I'm not doing this. This is just going to be the end of me using social media because I consider myself to be fairly introverted. And the idea of just talking to a camera, I'm like, absolutely not. Had so many things I had to get over, which now I realize everyone deals with them. But I'm like, I hate my voice. I hate the way that my face does this. I just picking myself apart. And then what do I have to say? What if I trip over my words? And I remember my husband, boyfriend at the time, he was like, "This is uncomfortable, which is exactly why you should do it. You just need to talk to the camera like you talk to me. It's gonna be awesome. You and I get to have so many great conversations, and you're brilliant, and you'll help so many people." And I remember the first time I'm going in a room to make sure like he could hear me, nobody could hear me, and just recording the same video, like 1 minute video, recording it over and over and over until I was like, okay, I'm gonna press play on this. And then no one even cares or watches it, or nobody's watching you the way that you're watching you, which
Yeah.
side note, something that really helped me with that mindset was Mark Manson's book. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He talks about us like judging ourselves and how to judge ourselves less. That book just really helped a lot, those thoughts. But over time, I was able to think about those kind of things less and move into that. And then he and I eventually started a podcast doing the same thing and getting my voice out there. And that was the one for me that I think allowed me to go, oh, okay, I can really do scary things. I think the very next one after that was probably public speaking, getting on a stage and actually doing that, getting over that. But I think as humans, we're wired to survive, right? We're not wired to thrive. Like our bodies don't go, "Oh, exciting, public speaking. This is going to make you a better person." Your nervous system goes, so your heart starts racing. You're like, "Don't do this, danger." The same message as if you're being chased by a tiger. Like our programming doesn't know any different. So our instinct is to go, "Nope, can't do that." But you're actually fine. You're actually safe. And on the other side of that, there is growth. And so you just have to get used to that initial, this is different. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it, which means I should do it. And like that should be your very next default if you're a growth oriented person. But yeah, those couple of examples of just like speaking publicly were the first couple for me.
It's interesting, like you having a hard time speaking in front of a camera to people that you don't even see and you're
Yeah.
imagining in your mind, like
Yeah.
these people that are judging you
Yes.
versus getting on a stage and actually seeing them face to face
Uh-huh.
and like how that is similar, but it's also different and how
It's
our
so different.
minds really play tricks on us, right? Because these imaginary people that are watching us on social media,
Yeah.
that's really me in my
Uh-huh.
mind, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like kind of trippy to think about, but
And in our minds, at least I used to think this way, it was like they were all sitting in a stadium holding their phones together, just like judging me. And it's just that's just so like your ego. That's like being very narcissistic to think that way, which was the thought that I had to come around to. I was like, actually, this is so egotistical that I'm thinking everyone's looking at me. Nobody's looking at me. And then I was able to just do what I wanted from that point on.
yeah. In that vein, you talked about your husband, well, boyfriend at the time, but your husband really helping you gain a little bit of perspective and coaching you a little bit, right? Like, you're great. Like, you have all of these amazing things to share. Can you talk about your support system in general as you've been on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think that's so important. But to back up from that a little bit, so I was married previously before my current husband, and it was the exact opposite. So the reason I think I had a lot of that internal dialogue is because I had the external dialogue. You don't need not everybody on social media needs to know you the way your friends and family know you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to share that. You're doing that for attention. Like a lot of that stuff that really got in my head, which is I think what initially I wouldn't admit at the time. I thought it was my own fear, but I think is what stopped me and slowed me down. And I think so many people in their life have people like that, whether it's like a family member or a friend or a significant other. You can have great friends and great peers and great coworkers, but whose opinion do you typically respect most? That's the person that can either lift you up or tear you down. And so obviously that marriage didn't work out for this being one of the major reasons. So then when I met Jordan, he was just all encouraging of everything I wanted to do, and then even the things I didn't want to do. Even the things that he knew, I know you don't want to do this, but it'd be really great for you. I'd say he was probably only the third person in my life. My mom will always give credit, like she's just always been my number one cheerleader since the time I was a kid. She's just, yeah, you can do anything. Like almost to an delusional degree. I'd be like, I want to be president, and she'd be like, yeah, you can do that. And so it gave me like a lot of confidence. So I believed her. She was saying that forever. And then I had a really good mentor in my life as I was going through that divorce who was able to like look at things I was doing or reflect things back to me and make me go, yeah, actually, this is great. I remember the first time I was showing him my business, which I was, so proud of that I had built. And he just like, oh, yeah, that's a cute little business. But you're like making this mistake and making this mistake, and this could be optimized in a way that just made me go, oh, wow, you really want more from me. And you're like really helping me. This is crazy. You're pulling me up to another level. And then Jordan was that third person. Jordan is an Enneagram 8. So he's like very, if something is on his mind, he has to say it. And he's not worried about being confrontational. And he's just got to be very straightforward about how things go. So it drives me insane sometimes, but I know he has my best interests in mind and it's always for the greater good and to push me. He does that. But having those 3 relationships made me go, "That's my standard for a relationship now. If I'm spending time with friends, they have to be adding value to my life." But I think what people don't talk about when they realize that, when they realize, "Oh, maybe I don't have great friends," what people don't talk about is this period of time that you have to go through where you don't have any friends because you break up with current friends because there's a cost of hanging out with these people, and you're not gonna meet new people as you're hanging out with other people. So you break up with those friends and then you're like single for a little while, like on your own. So you start meeting new people. The way that I did it, I joined like different masterminds and you just reach out to people in the industry and DM people and you give way more than you ever asked to receive. It's very vulnerable. It's so hard to do that as an adult to be like, hey, I want to be your friend. But I'd say probably since that relationship with Jordan, just like being able to do that. And I think people underestimate just how important that is because even if you're the most confident, self assured person, we all need that. Hey, you're doing great. Or the constructive. Hey, this was awesome. Consider maybe thinking about it this way next time. It's just so important to have those kind of people in your circle.
People that you trust that will lift you up, but also challenge you or push you to be your best or to be better than you are.
100%.
And seeking out those circles, I was listening to a podcast today where she's talking about it's not other people's responsibility to remind you or reach out to you. Like it is your responsibility to make sure that they know what you want from that relationship.
Yeah.
And so the reaching out and the being vulnerable and the risking rejection, right? Like maybe they don't want to be your friend. Maybe they don't want to be a mentor. Maybe they don't want to be part of your life. That's okay. But
Uh-huh.
keep doing it because the type of people that you want to be surrounded by, and if they're going to say, no, thank you, then those aren't your people. And it's like
100%.
being okay with that.
Yeah. My husband and I always joke that like men are so much better at it. He's yeah, I hit on five like when I was single, I'd hit 5 girls at the bar, hoping one of them would say yes out of sheer odds. But as women, absolutely not. We're like waiting for the invitation. So it's harder for us to put that foot forward and what if. I think it's just remembering it doesn't mean anything about you. Maybe they're in a spot in their life where they don't have that much capacity for networking or helping other people, or maybe they're not the growth, like you said, maybe it's not the kind of growth oriented person that you even want to be aligned with or associated with.
And you don't know what kind of opportunities or doors that relationship will open until you actually try.
Actually, we just did a podcast. I did one with a woman named Lauren Conlon. She's in the fitness space, and we were talking about that because I had asked her a question, like, you've been invited to speak on so many stages, and I feel like you have such a great network. And I'm like, how did that happen? And she goes, you just show up everywhere and you just hang around and you're a good person and you just leave a good impression no matter what. Like we were talking about how even if you're not being invited in these rooms with the world renowned fitness speakers or whatever your industry is, you can do it at the grocery store. Like you can leave a good impression anywhere you go and you literally never know who you're speaking to. It's like a good way to start practicing that.
Going into any environment without an expectation, like
Mhm.
without thinking, oh, what am I going to get out of this? But just going in, giving value, showing up and being a kind person and doing your thing, right? Like sharing your story or sharing your message. And you don't even know how that's going to impact somebody, resonate with them, and it bring them into your world.
Totally. And that's what's so cool about social media is you can do that and you can have this parasocial relationship where many people are watching on the other end and you never even had that personal one-to-one interaction with you. They might pop into your DM 6 months later and say, wow, this thing that you said just had such a big impact on me. To just create the content and share your story, like you really never know that you can help.
You're Sometimes you just don't even know what being normal or being yourself brings to the table and what stands
Mhm.
out to other people.
Yeah. No, it's true. The things people reflect back to me, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I thought everyone did that.
Yeah, exactly. I've told the story before, but like when I was networking to get a new role within a new career, I went to a meetup and I spoke up and I asked a question. And from asking that question, the guy running it reached out to me and was like, I have a job opening that would you
Wow.
like to interview? And I'm like,
Yeah,
I was so impressed by you asking the question and speaking up because recently he like shared that story in a meeting at
that's
my job
cool.
because that's where I work now. And he was like, when I met her, I just knew that I wanted her energy around me. And
That's
I was
awesome.
just so cool to hear from his perspective.
Yeah, and that stuff's uncomfortable, right? Like it can be uncomfortable to raise your hand in a room full of adults and ask a question, and your mind's probably going, "Was this already answered? Does everyone else already know this?" Am I like, "Should I ask this?" I've been in many rooms like that as we host 3 live events a year, and so I've been on the teacher side. I've also been in many of those rooms on the student side. And I'm getting better at this. I'm not going to say this as if it's my identity, but I typically suck as the student. I sit back and I like let everybody else do that. And I leave and I'm like, wow, so and so made such an impression on me. They shared so much. They asked so many great questions. And then what I've found is that I'm asking those people to come speak at my events because I'm like, you were so awesome. But it's such a lesson for me. That's how you get those opportunities, like the opportunity you just shared. Like you have to show up, you have to put yourself out there, even if you're tired, even if you think it's a dumb question. Like you just never know.
I'm usually just like the observer.
Like I put too much energy into teaching that I'm just going to sit here. Like when I get to be a student, I'm just going to let everybody else do the work. But I've really recently tried to be better about that.
Can you discuss maybe a tough moment in your transition in your career or any part of it and how you stayed resilient through that tough moment? Even if it's just career related, like it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be necessarily through the transition.
I feel like to take it back to the beginning because, like I said, I probably come across one a week. And I'm like, man, this is hard. I don't want to have to level up, and I don't want to have to be the person that can handle this type of thing. But I remember really early on when I was making the leap from my corporate job to online coaching. I was battling with a lot of imposter syndrome at the time. What is it? What are you doing? That's a real job. And so I felt confident in it, but getting so all of that pushback, I was like, am I crazy? And so I didn't trust myself enough so that I actually, when I left that job, I found my own like coaching business, but I also decided to open a gym because if I could tell people, hey, I'm opening a gym, they would at least be like, oh, yeah, that's a respectable thing to do. And so I did. I opened that gym. I made a terrible business decision, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment and build out and all of this stuff. And if I could go back and open a gym today, I maybe make it be profitable, but gyms are just a hard business, and I just didn't know what I was doing back then. And so I really just let the opinions of others drive me in a direction so far away from my own intuition. I remember specifically one coworker, even throughout the gym, she comes up to me and she goes, "Does your boyfriend know a lot about business?" And I'm like, "No, what do you mean?" And she's like, "How are you guys doing this?" I'm like, "I don't know. Listen, no one who starts a business knows what they're doing. Like, we're just learning one thing at a time." But there's just so much doubt and so much, hey, like we're happy and we're fine here in our jobs and our careers. And are you sure that you need to do this and you need to make the change? I almost didn't do it because of just all of those voices. I was also like 25 years old. So many people were just coming at me with names. People who were older than me, people who I respected. I do think though, making that decision and going, you know what, I'm just going to trust myself and I'm just going to try. Worst thing that could happen is I'm going to fail and I'll end up right back where I'm at. Maybe in some debt, but that's fine. So I'll end up right back where I'm at and I'll get a redo of this job that I don't enjoy so much. This is really hard and you have to trust yourself and you have to lean in.
I like that perspective of, okay, so wherever you are now, if you're not happy with it, but you've made it this far, right? Like you got the job at the office doing the thing that you don't like doing, then that really is the worst case scenario, right? Because you can go right back to doing that. Like what I did with teaching, I was like, I hate this. I'm miserable. I'm getting out. I would get out. And then I went back a couple of times, like when it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, or I thought it should. And so, yeah, like taking the fear out of the failure and being like, hey, what is the worst case scenario?
I love that question. I always ask that question. So often with our students, they're at that point where they're ready to make the leap. They've built their business through IFCA while having a full-time job. And they're like, oh, I've made more money in the last few months than I'm making over there. Or I've made more money this whole year than I'm making over there. But can I do it? And all the what ifs. And I always ask, what's the worst case scenario? And I always get them to that point where they're like, I would just get another teaching job. I'm like, okay, so the worst case scenario is the scenario you're in right now? Yeah. Okay. Maybe you should try the best case scenario. You have to lose.
Yeah. And if you're living the worst case scenario now, and is it really not bad? Like,
Yeah.
it's at least doable.
Yeah. You're not going to be homeless. Like
Yeah.
you can go back.
And then also the piece of having all those voices, all those other people's opinions. Like I talk a lot about on my podcast, like choosing the voices that you're listening to. But thoughts come to my mind as you're talking of like, how do you respond to people when they just keep bringing it up?
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate that with knowing, okay, what they say is not going to dictate what I'm doing, but how do I respond to them in the moment? Do you have any
Yeah.
ideas or tips on that?
If it's a stranger on the internet who doesn't even have a profile photo and has a fake username, you just don't. You just let that go in when you're not the other and not think of any of your energy. But if it's someone you highly respect, like who's looking out for you, like your dad or somebody, like that can be really challenging. And I think you have to ask yourself, what information are they making their decisions based off of? And what information am I making my decisions based off of? We get this all the time for people who get on a call with us. They're like, I've seen all of your testimonials. I know you can help me scale my business. I have a couple personal friends who are doing the exact thing I want to do, blah, blah. I want to sign up. I want to do this. And they get off the phone and their dad or somebody's, wait, you're paying how much money to do what? And that is what I always say, look, just because your dad is your dad and you respect him, I'm sure he's a smart guy and I'm sure he makes a lot of great decisions. It doesn't mean he's going to make the best decision here because who has more context, you or him? So a lot of times it's like the person is they're looking at it through their window. Well, they're looking at the fact that they went to college and they did this and they had this career like this. What's this like internet learning thing? And you want to have an online business? Like they barely know how to check their email. So it's just like very two different perspectives that of course they're going to think your idea is crazy. But when you can realize that it's that, then I think you just have to point that out and say, hey, look, here's all the context that I have. Here are these testimonials. Here's the research that I've done. And I understand that you don't get it, but I need you to support me. Can I ask that you'll support me in this decision? And usually when you approach it like that, it's, yeah, I don't get it, but you're an adult or you're your own person and I have to let you figure it out. And then it's almost even a little bit more fuel to your fire and ammunition to be like, man, I'm going to make sure that this was the right choice and I'm going to see it through. I know that's at least what it did for me. The naysayers really helped me.
Yeah. I
Don't
like
be
that.
wrong.
Nobody wants to be wrong, but yeah, I like that advice. And also, especially the piece of saying, I just need you to support me. You don't have to prove to them that you have all the data. You don't necessarily have to go down the list of everything. You can just blanket statement like, I've done this research and I I'm confident in myself and I just need you to support me. Like
Yeah,
it can be as simple as that. So
100%. Yeah. And just don't waste the energy otherwise. I remember early on in my husband and I's relationship, we were having a conversation about a business thing, and he was very certain on one way, and I was very certain on one way. And he goes, Erin, we don't have to agree. And that was like such a like light bulb for me. He was like, yeah, if you feel like you have all the context and you think this is a decision, then make the decision. He goes, we don't have to agree. Maybe I'm seeing it differently. And so I just think that's such a good lesson. And it's so hard for multiple people to agree on something. We get with having a large team, and we'll be on a say an event planning meeting, and there's 6 of us. Someone has to be the decision maker. So you can take that into the conversations. It's not getting everybody on your side. Spend that energy in the new direction you want to move in, not convincing everyone why you should go in that direction.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good example. Can you offer any practical tips or resources for people who are wanting to make a career shift or take that leap, but just need help with their mindset around it?
Yeah, I feel like to first ask myself, like, where does this mindset come from? Because oftentimes the thought came from somewhere. And so the first question is, okay, I think I have to stay in this job because of security, stability, whatever's happening there. Why do I think that? Who taught me that? Where did that come from? And what I realized in doing that was like my parents taught me that. And then I had to say, would I want to like trade lives with my parents? Do I like want to do the exact thing that they did? Is that like the outcome that I want? And I'm like, no. So why am I letting a very middle class mindset and way of making decisions? So why am I letting the influence of somebody that like I don't want what they had? Why am I letting that make this decision? I think oftentimes we just think something enough that we just believe our own thoughts, but we don't question our own thoughts. I have to do this. It's security, it's stability. Why do you think that? Who taught you to think that? If I really think about it, it's been this. Do you have to listen to them? No, I don't. Could you think something else? Yeah, I could. Are there any examples of anyone else who's doing it whose life you would want to trade places with? Yeah. What decision would they make? How would they think? Stop thinking like your dad who made a decision like this and start thinking like the person who you might want to model after. But that's just always been a really great framework for me is to answer those 3 questions. And then I can go, yeah, I'm just going back to my default.
Are you living your life or somebody else's? Are you
Mhm.
living for yourself or for somebody else? And definitely something I think a lot of people don't recognize because it is just default. Maybe I can do that now and be more
Mhm.
self reflective. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So many people, they just go through life and the goal is to remain safe. But that is our default programming, right? When we needed food, water, shelter, but you have those things. So you are safe. So now you can think outside the box.
And I like that reminder of you are safe.
Mhm.
And in those moments of when you're talking earlier about the feelings that you get in your body when you're about to go on stage to speak in front of a bunch of people, being able to recognize, okay, what's happening in my body that's making me feel this way. And then taking a moment to breathe and say, I am safe. Look around, recognize and ground yourself right in the moment of,
Yeah.
I am actually safe and this is okay. I can do this thing
Mhm.
that feels hard, but I know I'm capable of pushing through that.
Yeah. And you really only have to do it a few times and then you get addicted to it because the feeling that comes on the other end of,
Yeah.
wow, that felt good. That was really empowering. I can't even believe I just had that conversation or did that thing. And then you're looking for that payoff. So it's only the first few times. And then you're like, give me every hard conversation. Give me every, like, I'm just like, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's building up that resilience that we often
Mhm.
don't give ourselves credit for having
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erin, for being a guest. I have just love this conversation. I think there are a lot of great nuggets for people to take and start implementing in their day to day. So, if there's anybody that's interested in learning more about your services or learning from you in general, where can they find you? Yeah, for the most part, I hang out on Instagram and it is Erin Dimond Fitness. So it's in Diamond without the A. So Dimond. Our company name is Impact Fitness Coaching Academy. You could also follow our Instagram page. You'll find us there. My DMs are open. If there's anything you want to ask, feel free to shoot me a message. Awesome. And what's the name of your podcast? Oh, we also have a podcast. It's called the Fitness Business Podcast. For anybody who has the current online business, or if you're an in person trainer, maybe you just have fitness as a hobby and you're like, wow, that would be really cool to do something like that and help people. We have over 600 episodes where we talk about everything from how do I get started to hiring team members, like all kinds of stuff. So you can go down the rabbit hole over there. Okay, awesome. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure. And Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and a huge thank you to our guest for sharing such valuable insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others discover the podcast, and it means the world to me as I continue to bring you content that supports your career change journey. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling stuck in a career that doesn't fulfill you anymore, I'm here to help. My one-on-one career coaching program is designed specifically for women who are ready to break free from the grind and discover a career that truly excites them. In our sessions, we'll uncover what's holding you back, identify your true passions, and create a clear, actionable plan to transition you into a career that aligns with your deepest values. You can get in touch with me directly at shiftyourdayjob@gmail.com, or you can connect with me on social media at shiftyourdayjob. I'd love to hear from you and support you on this journey. Until next time, I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.